Swift says it has proved it can be the way forward for global CBDCs, which I'm very not happy about CBDCs. And they basically came out and said they solved the interoperability issue between networks. That part of this headline is going to be very interesting to me because wouldn't you think that they would use the same network for CBDCs so that everything could be easy for remittances and whatnot? That's just my 2 cents. But anyways, there was a blueprint framework released for a global CBD system, which is kind of weird about the interoperability thing. And if you guys don't know what SWIFT is for the audience, and that's okay if you don't know, it's an interbank messaging system that facilitates cross-border payments, international wire payments. And they basically want to achieve instant frictionless cross-border payments. And the current network is usable in 200 plus countries and connects over 11,000 banks and funds. For the record, I do not like CBDCs. I don't like the idea of it. Yes, I want people to have access to their money. I want them to be able to send to their families or do whatever they need to do. But I do not like CBDCs because I think it is going to be a direct attack on our privacy. I want to toss this one over to Will for his thoughts.
Yeah, I'll snag it really quick and then throw it up to Zach. This is an interesting story, and there's a few notes in here about what it could portend for the future of digital payments. The biggest thing is SWIFT is a political body, right? It's run by governments. It's agreement between multiple governments to move money. That really came to the forefront in the spring when SWIFT booted Russia off its payments platform, right? They said, Russia, you cannot use SWIFT anymore. We're done using it. You cannot transfer money across it. Banks cannot settle across with each other. And that led to a lot of problems with Russian ruble, where the ruble collapsed because of that for a little bit. Now back much stronger, but collapsed for a little bit, caused a lot of volatility within the economy, and then also basically limited Russia's banking system to touch anybody outside of Russia or any other system that Russia has set up. So we saw Russia start talking to Iran and some other countries like China, but that was about it, right? Like once you are cut off from SWIFT, you're cut off from everybody. So now let's put this within a digital framework, right? Where we have some sort of obscene idea of a decentralized layer of nodes talking with each other, and SWIFT is running on top of this. And as Jamie Crowley put it in the article, there's some elements that are similar between Bitcoin and what SWIFT is envisioning here, or at least what we have a description of the SWIFT envisioning. They're cousins, but they're pretty estranged cousins, right? Like there's not that much of a similarity besides this notion of decentralization. There might be a few things, like they might have a few nodes, but at the same time, one Bitcoin node is equivalent to one Bitcoin node. A node in the SWIFT sense is not that, right? A SWIFT node would basically have control over everything, would be able to stop anyone. So if Russia had a SWIFT node, you could cut that off from the rest of the system and they wouldn't be able to move their money. It wouldn't be digital cash, more or less. It would still be dollars just running on top of a different rail and on top of a different system, which gets you back to the initial problem with all these things that people have brought up so many times. Why do I need a blockchain for this? Like, where is the decentralized element that I need in all of this? If I want some sort of proof of authority system with any sort of money system, which governments do want, then you don't need a blockchain. So this story is interesting because you get some digital asset elements in there, because you do think that this could be the future for where SWIFT goes. But in terms of it making sense with Bitcoin, there's not a whole lot of correlation. Zach, I'll throw it up to you.
Yeah, let's do it. So SWIFT, I think, has long been the target of, the crypto true believers, right? Like we can have open blockchain networks that derail like SWIFT as a necessary middleman to global finance. I think like of late, SWIFT seems to want to make sure that it's not getting fully disrupted, right? Or it wants to put up the defenses against potential attackers to their business model. And I think for me, the thing that stood out is SWIFT recently announcing that they were doing some work with Chainlink on a pilot, right? Integrating some data feeds from probably the industry's leading Oracle provider, Chainlink, and toying around with it in whatever way suits their needs. But the idea that SWIFT is sort of actively participating in at least thinking through some of the existential challenges that digital assets might pose to it as an organization, that to me is really interesting, right? So they want to kind of co-opt some of that disruptive energy and see if they can sort of put it to use in a way that works for them. So that to me is the interesting thing. Maybe less so with the CBDC news, but definitely with the Chainlink news. That Chainlink and SWIFT are in conversations seems pretty remarkable to me. Wendy, I saw your hand up, throwing it your way.
So I actually mentioned that because I saw a lot of people in the official announcement from Swift, the thread on Twitter, they were like celebrating because it did mention Chainlink. For the record, I do hold Chainlink, and I'm also going to be speaking at one of their events tomorrow in LA. But I'm still, it's kind of irks me out a little bit because I just don't think people understand. I think people are just reading the headline and they're not understanding how bad a CBDC is going to be. Like, I really do feel like we're going to lose a lot of our privacy. And it's not about Ethereum versus Link or Ethereum versus XRP, whatever it is. I just want people to understand what we are kind of risking at this point. I don't think the CBDCs are going to be private. I think they're going to be able to track us. I think it's not going to be super transparent for government officials, for government spending, which that's kind of what we should be pushing for. So only thing I want to say is please don't just read the headlines and be excited, especially if it involves your coin. Just kind of consider the long-term impacts of what is going to happen. And do we really want this to happen? At least none of this stuff has been integrated yet, and we still have time to voice our opinions and our concerns. So this is not something you're happy about. Make sure to reach out to your local government officials.